Welcome to Thrive with Pride by AgeOptions, an inclusive program for LGBT plus older adults, those who care for them, and our allies. This is a recording of a live event held on Zoom, which included a lengthy discussion that was not recorded. This month, we did a casual, candid share out of ideas and issues collected during our community roundtables and Thriving Aging survey earlier this year. Please see the video description below for a PDF of the slides and other helpful resources.
So hello again, everybody. My name is Nina. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Aging with Pride program specialist at AgeOptions. For those of you who don't know, AgeOptions is the area agency on aging for all of suburban Cook County. Thrive with Pride is our program for LGBT older adults, those who care for them, and our allies. So today we're gonna, we already did our introductions. We're gonna go over some community guidelines just for when we get to the discussion portion of our event, so we can all be aligned. Then we'll go over some background and context, sort of why we're doing this, before we jump into what we learned. And share back some ideas that emerged from what we learned, some opportunities to engage you all moving forward, and then kind of where we're headed next after that. So these are our community guidelines. We like to share these whenever we're doing discussions just to make sure we're all on the same page and respecting one another. So I'll just read them briefly. Listen to understand, share the mic so everyone has a chance to speak, be curious, not judgmental, take care of yourself if conversations become heavy. This is a brave space, so it's okay to say you don't know or don't feel comfortable responding to something. Confidentiality is key, so I'd ask that specifics, if any are shared during today's meeting, that those not leave the room. And then if you're here as an ally, just want to say your main job is to listen first. All right, so a little bit of background on the reason why we're here. So every year we try to do some formal, some informal information gathering, feedback from the communities we're trying to reach and serve. So some of you all attended back in, I believe it was February, our community roundtables, and we had 2 of those, and we had some discussion. Following that, we used the same kind of questions from those discussions to make our Thriving Aging survey, and we got some responses online that way as well. So after we had some time to sort through those and kind of see where there was emerging themes or kind of recurring topics, things that warranted further discussion, that's what we pulled out for this presentation. And just want to emphasize, we think it's really important to share back what we learned and make sure we heard our community correctly and see if we missed anything, and what we can improve on moving forward. So that is why we're here. Just to refresh folks who didn't participate in either of those, the roundtable or the survey, that's totally fine. We had kind of 3 categories of questions. So what are your experiences and concerns? What concerns have you personally experienced, or if you're an ally, have you heard from your loved ones or community members or clients? What are some of the needs you're experiencing currently, in the past, or in the future do you anticipate? And then what are some of your wants? Things you have wanted to do in the past, things that you want to do in the future. Next, we had a section on defining thriving. So what kinds of programs or services have been helpful to you? And if there were any that were unhelpful, how so? So we can sort of avoid those things. What does thriving as you age mean or look like? So how do we create more affirming aging experiences for our community? And then what's one thing you would like to change or improve about your aging experience, whether that's personally, in your home, in your community? And then the third section was sort of our catch-all around support and sharing. So we asked folks how agencies like AgeOptions or our partners could support or empower our community to initiate the changes they want to see in their lives and their communities. And then if there was anything else folks wanted to share, we left that open-ended. All right, so now we're going to jump into some of the key themes. They kind of emerged in 3 groups as well. So the first is maintaining physical and cognitive health. The second is a kind of a mix of current caregiver concerns as well as future care needs that we're anticipating. And the third was around still wanting to, this concept of generativity, still wanting to be involved, and socialization, seeking social opportunities. So I'll dive a little deeper into each of those. But some of the through lines throughout all of this, you'll see come up with some of the quotes shared on the screen. This concept of not just surviving, but thriving. So, really having quality of life. Having a centralization of resources, so where folks know they can turn to for resources and programming. And transportation comes up quite a bit too. So, making sure people are able to get to these things. So when it comes to health, right? Current health, maintaining both physical and cognitive health. The cognitive health piece did come up a lot. So I've quoted some from both the online session and the surveying. So things that are important to people: staying healthy, being aware of the onset of physical or cognitive decline, concern about memory loss. Um, Someone talked quite a bit about, insurance, maybe not covering some of the core needs or covering less of some of the core needs like vision, hearing, and dental. So some of those tangible insurance related health needs. Affordable healthcare, especially long-term care if necessary. So thinking about how do I afford the things I need as I age, and especially if I have to switch environments, right? Making sure I have a non-hostile care facility. And socialization is also tied to health in that way. Around caregiving, so we saw sort of two groups of thoughts and comments emerge. One was as a caregiver, what are some of the concerns folks are having? And the second bit was kind of what concerns or what care needs I anticipate in the future, even if I don't necessarily need support in that area right now. So challenges people face as they age or as caregivers are kind of hard, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. But this theme, sort of the nuance that exists, that might make it a little bit more difficult for members of this community. The financial burden that caregiving can cause for the caregiver, need for respite opportunities, concern about my own mental health as a caregiver. So a lot of these needs highlight a lot of what exists in our aging network already around respite, around caregiver support. So I want to make sure I have the opportunity to highlight those and get folks connected to resources that already exist. As I said, some folks had no unmet needs, but I anticipate needing help with things like grocery shopping or meal prep, a future care provider, and then that concern about who will support me when I need it, given I don't have children or my community of friends is small. So if our community is aging along with us, and they also have needs, who can we turn to when we need that support? And in regards to socialization and generativity, there's a lot of call for kind of more social outlets, expanding our social network, wanting to be more active with LGBTQ senior groups, but also finding meaningful, worthwhile ways to get involved, wanting to volunteer, as well as volunteer for other older adults. Um, so more ways to be able for older adults to be able to support one another, and just this idea that we all still have something to contribute. Ageism often causes a sense of a loss of value, but pushing back on that, giving back to our community. Some additional insights or topics that came up, even if they weren't necessarily related to the questions we asked, sort of fell into three categories. We talked a bit about the importance of identity-based programming versus, for lack of better words, integrated programming. So, right, Thrive with Pride is a program for LGBT older adults and those who care for them, but including allies or tapping into other identities that folks hold, really considering intersectionality is something that was shed light on. We got some advice from some participants that it's not always necessary to have identity based programming, but if you start kind of with the core need, And then what makes it unique for the community, that's what makes the content more approachable. Really, the importance of being able to see yourselves reflected as you age came through. Um, and also, another piece of advice for us was that providers need to recognize that not everyone knows how to socialize. And so, how do we sort of integrate some of that into our offerings? But what we heard was that there's a need for both and. So, not all events need to be identity specific. The next was a call for opportunities for intergenerational connection. This came through the surveys, but also historically looking at our past participation in intergenerational events like trivia or the talk and paint we did or Friends of Thrive last year. We always received positive feedback about those opportunities. And then interest in arts-based activities and other in-person offerings. So recognizing that not everybody wants to engage online. So how can we provide both online and in-person opportunities? And arts-based activities like music, storytelling, and we did the paint recently that was well received. So those are some of the more activity-based things that came up for us. And from that, we've generated some program ideas and opportunities. So I'll go through a few of those here, but then I really want us to have more of a chat, get your feedback on what was shared, and then what we can do moving forward. So in response to the need for maintaining health or thinking about future health, thinking about ideas like group exercise or health or mental health workshops. So we're addressing both the physical and the cognitive um, needs of our community. Seems like diving deeper into caregiving might be helpful. So, as a caregiver, what supports are available to me? Um, Advanced planning plus, that's my way of saying beyond just the paperwork, right? Because we can do that. We can set up, work on setting up healthcare powers attorney, living will, but really planning for the future. Who can support me if I don't have that traditional family or care someone to care for me in place. Coordinated volunteer activities. So this was again something that came up as an idea of still wanting to give back to the community, but potentially that's more approachable if you're doing it as a group as opposed to attending something new for the first time. And again, artistic events. So we've had some good experience. I've been able to participate in some training around storytelling and photography. So how can we bring some of the skills and interests that already exist within our network to our community? That said, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording and we'll get into some ideas that you might have, so your feedback on what was already shared. So give me just a second to do that.
Thanks again for joining us this month. Don't forget to check out the video description below for slides from this presentation and other helpful resources. Sign up for email reminders of future events at www.thrivingwithpride.org. Thanks for watching.